Hey you guys, what's up? I'm Medua and I got first place on Hypixel Skyblock Bingo yet again. 3 times in a row now, a hat trick of gold medals. I know I didn't pick the easiest of cards to speedrun when I posted my challenge for anyone to beat me for first place, especially because of these 2 tasks. But honestly, I was a bit let down when I found out that my friend Awik got second place after taking an entire nap finishing his bingo card 10 hours after I finished mine. Like, come on guys, were you even trying? No, but in all honesty, the speedrun was pretty draining, and so to not babble around any longer, let's jump right in and I'll show you how and why I got first place in bingo with a lead of more than 10 hours. The beginning. Jumping in, and I'll try to skip the boring parts of the beginning, I started with my perfect bingo start. The video is linked up here if you're interested, and then I made my way to the dwarven mines using lapis, redstone and coal. The main reason I focused the dwarven mines early on was to be able to catch any events happening in there, as if I wanted to speedrun, I had to get Heart of the Mountain 3 within the first day. I got a mining XP boost from a bingo pet to claim commissions with and get some extra XP on it, and started doing a couple of those. After that, I started working towards getting End Island access, and the main reason for it was the Rotten Flesh collection. The 2 tasks I was mainly worried about from the get-go were Rotten Flesh Collector and Friend of the Sea, as those were definitely the tasks that would have made me fight for them the most. And so I knew that Rotten Flesh isn't as bad as the Gunpowder collection from last bingo, as it's easily accessible through mobs that you can actually see, unlike sneaky creepers, but I also knew that it would still be a grind, and therefore I wanted to yet again get catalysts, as there was an even bigger fish to fry, pun intended, with the uncommon dolphin pet from the Friend of the Sea task up ahead. So I basically spent the first hour of the bingo on 3 simple things: unlocking the dwarven mines, unlocking the End Island, and getting a basic minion setup. In the meantime, I also unlocked my first 3 tasks: Spider Queen, Healthy, and collecting data. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying my content, then feel free to subscribe. Let's continue. Minions. After I unlocked the End Island, the next goal was to actually unlock the catalyst recipe, so I got set up with end armor and started breaking shiny blocks. I also opened the garden, rewarding me with strongmen, why so ever, talked to Jotreline Greatforge, and then when I got the catalyst recipe, I started farming crystal fragments. And here, the main difference to last time was that dragons were not only affordable again and finally being done by random people in the lobby again, but it was much faster than grinding out golems for a chance of a single crystal fragment over and over again. I was also luckily greeted with Jotreline pretty quickly as a visitor on the garden, which would help out later on when I would farm carrots with a now affordable replenish tool. At the 2-hour mark, I then already had catalyst fueled minions, as well as a couple of minutes later, during a 2x powder event, I then completed a real head scratcher. Right after that, the next goal was minion crafting, where I not only unlocked minion machine, but I also unlocked the 8th, 9th, 10th, and even 11th minion slot, and in the meantime I also completed setting the trap. Preparation. I then started working on fishing, and here, even though it was pretty hard to work up beforehand, I actually chose to fish up 1000 sea creatures by hand. I was pretty certain that the entire bingo except the Rotten Flesh collection and the sea creatures was easily doable within 24 hours. And since the dolphin pet, at least if you upgrade the common dolphin at cat, would take 24 hours to be upgraded, that then led me to work out if I could actually complete the entire bingo plus the fishing within less than 24 hours. I honestly didn't really test too much beforehand, and me and my friends kinda came up with some wonky numbers to calculate the 1000 sea creatures, and honestly 30% sea creature chance and 8-second average hook times now after playing the bingo seems a bit naive, but as it came down to around about 2 sea creatures per minute, and that came down to less than 10 hours of active fishing, I was certain that fishing by hand would not only be the fastest way, but actually the only way if someone wanted to speedrun this bingo and get a chance for first place. So then I started preparing. Moby the NPC was basically my best friend from that point onwards, as I bought almost every item in his shop in the next couple of hours. I also asked my friends to place down jump cap buckets, as even if it would make me spawn Agarimus and they were a real threat to me fishing, the up to 16 fishing speed would definitely help out a lot. And yes, I also was able to get a talisman from it. I fished in the park until I finally obtained the squid boots to then make my way to the barn. And yes, barn fishing is slower as there is no rain, but it's definitely much more endurable for 10 or more hours. I also, right after I got there, got pretty lucky with one of my friend's Hydra poles as they fished with me, and so that pretty quickly let me obtain the Fish Affinity Talisman, the Endless Cycle. Just like with most of the bingos, a cycle began to arise. Fishing, commissions, and working on minion setup. I then also found out that the strange egg task was bugged, as I randomly got it from a golden goblin spawned by me breaking Mithril. I sadly found out about this a couple of broken eggs too late, but hey, I'll take it. Then the cycle repeated until I unlocked Heart of the Mountain 3, and with it, the Crystal Hollows. Since no other players were in the Crystal Hollows yet, and nobody was looking for parts, my friends started looking for sapphire parts in chests and also a key guardian. In the meantime, I repeated my cycle and also unlocked Fairy Finder. After some time, I finished the entire Nucleus run, collecting Jade, Sapphire, Amethyst, Topaz, here I also got the Blaze Minion recipe, and Amber, to find out it didn't work. Oh shock. I tested it on the regular profile, and turns out, by the way, this was found out much later, so don't blame me, but you actually seem to have to own a gemstone sack in order for the gemstones collected from a Nucleus run counting towards collection. This honestly came as a pretty big shock at the time, as it was a massive setback to the speedrun, as all the searching for the parts and time spent on the Nucleus run was now wasted, but I luckily had a plan B. And yes, it was this stupid fun fact I added to my bingo guide, just as a, fun fact. But plan B then were Skaithas. This honestly worked like a charm. Here the only problem was them despawning super quickly, but with the help of my friends, Gemstone Collector was a bit delayed, but finally done, and with it, half of the bingo card. The calm before the storm. Now it was time to get rid of the last easy grinding tasks. Farmer and Carrot Collector went hand in hand, as I had enough XP through collecting visitors and simply achieving milestones. Then I went for the green gold, and honestly, I don't know how I forgot about this in my guide, probably because the last 2 cards didn't require Heart of the Mountain 3, but I went for emerald blocks in the Mines of the Vans, and that went pretty quickly. I also got some eggs for the enchanted egg needed later, as I couldn't wear the chicken head whilst fishing anymore, because luck was on my side, and on my 50th Hydra kill. Actually, here goes a huge thanks to all my friends who not only helped me physically, but also for just encouraging me along the way. I finally dropped a water Hydra head, which to be honest isn't too big of an upgrade of the angler hat, but this now marked my final fishing attire. I then got a last minion slot, marking 12 minion slots right before we opened the fishing chapter, and my friends already started talking about one of them falling asleep during fishing. You may ask how they knew? Well, when I then came there to start fishing 10 minutes later, this happened. Not only did he fall asleep during fishing, but it also cost him a couple of coins, losing all that bait. And speaking of bait, here's one of the couple of sessions I had to go through when collecting glowing mushrooms for the glowy chum bait. And maybe this was karma for laughing at my friend for falling asleep, but I then got kicked. But after that, the biggest chapter began: fishing. There honestly isn't too much to talk about here, except watching a counter of sea creature trends go up for hours upon hours, and then in the meantime, to refresh my mind a bit, I also completed I See Stars and also Trouble Is Brewing to then get right back into fishing, all the way until this glorious finish to the chapter: 1000 sea creatures for an uncommon dolphin pet, Friend of the Sea, completed. So at this point, I already had 47,000 rotten flesh collected, and with a single blaze minion placed during the fishing session, enough blaze powder for the entire aspect of the end. And since I still had a couple of tasks to aim for, I then chose to farm up the remaining 500 rotten flesh by hand and make place for chicken minions. I finished Rotten Flesh Collector, and whilst working on setting up chicken minions, I also completed Carry On. After that, the final chapter began: Ender Pearls and Eggs. I sadly don't know why, but I absolutely underestimated this task, especially after at least 8 hours of straight up fishing. I honestly thought that since I already had the blaze powder for the aspect of the end ready, that the Ender Pearls and with it the collection would be an absolute walk in the park, but I was super wrong on that front, because it definitely came down to a last grind. I did finish up the collection, even though it took way longer than expected, and in the meantime, I even dropped a legendary Enderman pet, not really accounting for much this bingo, but it actually came as a nice surprise. And since the chicken minions weren't keeping up with me, I then chose to farm the last collection, the Enchanted Egg collection, up by hand. I then went to my island, crafted an aspect of the end for soup, and then to finish it all off, the now famous Jerry pet, marking 20 out of 20 bingo calls completed. I swapped profiles to check for the results, and there it was. My 3rd gold medal, 1st place in Hypixel Skyblock Bingo, 3 times in a row now. And not only did I get 1st place, but like I stated in the beginning of the video, I finished with a gap of more than 10 hours to 2nd place. And the main reason for it was the fact that I seem to have been the only one not misreading a simple shortcut for the trap it actually was. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then feel free to like and subscribe. But this has been it for me. I'll see you on the next one. Medua, still bingo rank 1, out.